Hi, my name is Alex, and I'll be the host in our podcast today. The topic will be on sleep in young adults, and I have three guests with me today in different stages of their young adulthood. And hopefully, by the end of the podcast, I can convince some of us to sleep better. And starting with the youngest, we have Christina. And Christina is a recent college freshman at Berkeley. She moved across the country to be with us today. And Christina, how are you doing today? How is your first semester at Berkeley treating you so far?
I really like it here. I think the weather is really nice. It's still in the 60s, so back home it's like dropping into the 30s. I really like the food here as well. There's a lot more variety to choose from.
Awesome. Next, we have Jasmine. She's a college senior in environmental biology and environmental economic policies. And how do you feel about being a senior and graduating next semester, Jasmine?
It's kind of nerve-wracking since I don't know what I'm going to be doing next with my future. But school's been a really good time so far. I'm really sad that it's ending, but also excited that it's ending. I'm trying to make the most of my last year here.
Awesome. Same. And finally, we have Juan. She's a first-year grad student studying biology at USC. She moved from NorCal to SoCal a few months ago. And how's the adjustment going, Juan? How do you like it down there?
I like it. I like the weather better.
It's hot though. It's very warm. I was recently there, like a few hours ago. But yeah, today we'll just be playing a little game of truth or myth, and it'll be on the topic of sleep. And I'll be asking you some questions, or I'll be giving you some statements. And if you think it's true, then give me a one, just hold up one. And if you think it's a myth, just hold up the number two. Okay. All right. The first question is, having naps throughout the day is good for your health and productivity. On the count of three, show me your answer. All right. 1, 2, 3, go. Oh, interesting. Okay, we have a split answer here. So Juan and Jasmine answered one. So they think it's true. And Christina believes that's false. Okay, interesting. I want to ask, like, do y'all take naps throughout the day? How does that make you feel, Christina, when you take a nap throughout the day? Do you think it helps you like learn better, or how does that make you feel?
Sometimes when I take naps, I wake up more tired than I was before, and I want to go back to sleep right as I woke up.
Yeah, that makes sense. I definitely have those bad naps as well. But Juan, do you have anything that you want to add? I know that you're an avid nap taker.
Yes, I just find opportunities to sleep whenever I can because I like so much sleep every day. And it makes me feel better after napping, and I feel motivated to do things after I sleep.
That makes sense as well. I actually sort of have experiences from both sides, but the answer to this question is actually true on a scientific point of view. And we do see that naps improve your learning and memory. In a study done on infants, they performed some tasks with a puppet, the researchers. They would do like this, or they would make jumps with the little hand puppet, and then they would have the infants imitated. And then they split the infants into two experimental groups. The first group, they give the infants a nap, at least 30 minutes non-interrupted nap. And then for the second group, when the infants were learning, after they learned, they don't get a nap. And after 4 hours of learning the hand puppet trick, they give the puppet to the infants and they see how well the infants can remember these tricks. And basically, the nap group did so much better, even though the amount of time in between the learning and the actual testing was the same for both groups. So the infant can actually remember how to do some of these tricks. And what's, I think, even more surprising is that 24 hours later, when they retested this, the nap group still retained a very significant amount of information. So most of them still remember the tricks, while the no nap group remembered even less, or even less infants could remember how to do some of these tricks. So, and I think Christina, what you were talking about with the nap and feeling pretty terrible when you wake up, it could be a problem with like waking up at the wrong stage of sleep. So it could be that you're going into a pretty long nap and then you end up waking during a deep stage of sleep when your body is still really dead. Your mind is not thinking about anything. And when you're waking up, then all the senses will feel dull and you just feel like all you want to do is go back to sleep. But I think it's the real world responsibilities that like push you to, you have to get up and do your work. So that makes it less productive for you to take a nap. But you know, on a daily, it's still good to schedule a little bit of nap time. And my second statement is melatonin is an effective drug as a regular sleep aid. So on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. So all of you think it's false? Okay, nice. So Jasmine, do you take melatonin? How do you feel about melatonin?
Luckily, I don't ever have to take melatonin. I'm good at sleeping, thankfully. But I just believe that melatonin, although it can like put you to sleep in whatever mechanism that it does, I've heard stories that it can cause like dependency, or you have to, or like really messes up. Like if you don't take it, then you can't sleep naturally. And so that's kind of really scary for me. But yeah, I don't have to take it, and I don't take melatonin ever.
That's great. That's good to hear. And absolutely, that's one of the reasons that melatonin is not something you should take on a regular basis, for sure. And Juan and Christina, do you guys ever take melatonin to go to sleep?
Yes, actually, after I came back from China to here, I usually just took 1 to 2 days of melatonin to help me, I guess, adjust my sleep schedule better.
Yeah, cool. See, that's actually a pretty good use for melatonin, which is like, it's really supposed to be used for adjusting sleep schedules, a sudden sleep schedule, such as a jet lag. One of the things that Jasmine mentioned was absolutely correct. So the chronic use of melatonin leads to the reduction in these melatonin receptors in your brain. So you'll need a lot more melatonin to really feel the effects. And another thing is that melatonin is not really FDA regulated. That means that a lot of the melatonin that's out on the market right now, they don't have the dose that it says it has. So if a pill says 10 milligrams, it can have anywhere between 25 milligrams and like 5 milligrams. The effects is really like, it's not very tightly regulated at all. So I think those are definitely things to be careful of if you need to take melatonin to adjust your sleep schedule. It's definitely not something you should consider taking chronically. Okay, so the next question, next statement is that sleeping 7 hours on weeknights and then having longer sleeps during the weekend is healthy and won't affect your performance. On 3. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I think that one, it might be a little more obvious to y'all, even though that's something I definitely still do on a daily basis. So I wanted to ask you guys, how many hours do you sleep per night on a weeknight? And do you do these like longer recovery sleeps during the weekends? Anyone can start.
I can go first. I get between 6 to 8 hours. So some days 6 is standard, and those days are where I nap more. And then some days 8, depending on when I skip classes or if I have a late start day. And the schedule does not depend on whether it is a weekday or a weeknight, as every weekend I do have like things early in the morning at like 9:30. So it just depends. Usually 6 to 8. I guess 6 or 8. Yeah.
Do you feel more tired when you get less sleep, even if it's like 7 hours of sleep?
I think if it's consecutively 6 to 7 hours with no naps, I will feel pretty drained, and I think I can't do any of my work. So then I do take a nap and then wake up and try to do my work, or I end up pushing everything to like the last minute. Heavy, heavy procrastinator.
Nice. Yeah, I feel that. I got you. Awesome. What about you, Christina?
I'm actually pretty lucky. So my first class doesn't start till 11 in the morning.
Mhm.
So a lot of times my goal is to get at least 7.5 hours of sleep. But sometimes if I, just have time to sleep in, I will definitely do that. And on weekends, when I go out, I will sleep later at night. And I guess that's when the recovery naps kind of make sense for me, for the recovery sleep. And during the weekend, sometimes I wake up a little later, near 11 or noon.
I got you. Cool. What about you, Juan?
I don't usually record or remember how long I sleep for the weekdays. I usually just go to sleep whenever I can, and I wake up every day by I guess 8 o'clock sharp and go to work. And I don't really have a chance to take naps because I'm working right now. But yeah, I usually do recovery sleep during the weekends just to sleep as much as I could. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
What do you think is preventing you from getting more sleep? And do you think it's just you have so much work, you don't really have time to
Yeah,
do it?
usually it's just work. And also sometimes I use coffee to help me stay awake during the day. And then for the night, it's too strong and can't go to sleep that early. That's a problem too.
Yeah. Oh, that brings up a very interesting point, and I think we can go into caffeine a little more later as well. So you guys are definitely right about this one. Um, Sleeping just 7 hours or less during the weekday and sleeping more on the weekend doesn't really work. And there were studies done on this, which showed that like consecutive days of sleeping 7 hours a night, even just 7 hours, is similar to um, having one night with no sleep at all on the second day. Like you'll feel the same way. And I think that's really scary for me personally, because on the weeknights, a lot of times I don't go to sleep because I'm like, at least I'll get 7 and then I'll sleep more on the weekends. But it doesn't really work like that, and it all adds up together. And I think the concept of recovery sleep is nice, and you do get more sleep on the second night if you didn't sleep enough on the first night, but you never get the same amount of sleep back. So, for example, if you slept 6 hours every day for the week and you had the weekend, the 2, 3 nights to sleep, you never get like those 2 hours per night back. You don't get 10 more hours of sleep during the weekend. Your body physically can't do that. And um, and what they also show is that even when you get that recovery sleep, at least the first couple of nights, if you get that recovery sleep, your body's performance doesn't just get better instantly. It's still in that like a kind of sleepy state. And yeah, so that's pretty scary. And I definitely, since I've learned this, try to sleep a little more. Okay. And Juan actually brought up the point about caffeine. And she's absolutely right. Caffeine is a very potent blocker of sleep. And how it works is that you have these sleep molecules called adenosine. And these molecules will build up anytime that you're awake. Adenosine builds up from the moment you wake up. And then it will gradually build up. And when it gets a lot, you'll feel sleepy. And then there comes a point where it's so much adenosine in your system that you go to sleep. And when you're sleeping, you clear the adenosine. And how caffeine works is that caffeine binds to the adenosine and basically doesn't let the adenosine be sensed by the adenosine receptors. So like suddenly when you drink caffeine, you create this artificial effect that, oh, there's less adenosine in your system, and thus you don't feel as sleepy. However, we all know that this effect isn't forever. Caffeine gets digested or broken down by these enzymes in your body, and eventually you have what's called a caffeine crash, which is that not only do you feel the sleepiness from before you took the caffeine, you oftentimes feel a lot more sleepier all of a sudden. And that's because adenosine, while the caffeine was active, is still building up because you're still awake. So there's even more adenosine when the caffeine effect is gone. Like there's all of a sudden so much adenosine in your system that you just feel so tired. Yeah.
Does trying, I don't drink coffee every day, but does trying to drink milder forms of caffeine would be beneficial, i.e. like tea or, yeah, no, just tea. Like instead of maybe having like an espresso, like just a plain coffee spread out throughout the day, or just kind of use it as necessary instead of like drinking it on the daily, I think, right? Like that's probably better. I don't know.
Yeah, I think just the ingesting caffeine at a very concentrated state very quickly, that's definitely worse to you. And then if you're having a cup of tea over a long period of time, the effects should be better. And then for our next statement, we have alcohol helps you get more sleep. And can you give me a 1 for true and 2 for false or myth? All right, 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, we have a split decision again, exciting. So we have Juan and Jasmine thinking that it's true, and Christina thinking that it's false. I think you guys are both, or you're all kind of right on this one. It's a bit of a trick question. Hypothetically, if you're having a drink, how does that drink make you feel? And do you feel like you're sleeping deeper at night? And Jasmine and Juan, if you want to chime in on that one, since I know Christina is still young and has never drank before.
I just feel sleepy after drinking. I don't usually remember a lot of my dreams after that, but I know I dream after I drink alcohol, and I usually just have a pretty good sleep after.
Yeah.
I know that it makes like coffee like keeps you awake, and then like alcohol does the opposite. Like it like mellows you down. So like that's why I thought that having alcohol would give you like, or would cause you to sleep. And also in my experience, like if you do drink too much, you do kind of decide that sleeping is the best choice to make. But whether or not like you get the best night's sleep with alcohol in your system is a totally different thing. Probably not, since some people get hangovers if their bodies can't like process it, or if they didn't drink enough water. But I think if you do drink enough water and you know how much you can handle, you can wake up all right. Yeah.
Absolutely. So I definitely think you're right, Jasmine, that alcohol is a depressant. So it kind of does the opposite thing as caffeine for sure. And it kind of definitely just tells a lot of your body system to just chill and calm down. So in that sense, it does make you sleep more, or yeah, have more sleep. And however, alcohol actually makes you have more interrupted sleep. Okay, so alcohol actually makes you pee more. So during the night, you might have more interruptions from getting up and going to the bathroom. And another very potent effect of alcohol is that it makes you have a lot less REM sleep when alcohol is in your system. And REM sleep stands for rapid eye movement sleep. And it's this stage of sleep, in this stage, that you have dreams. So after drinking in a night out, you fall asleep, usually you might feel that you just passed out and you don't remember anything in your sleep. You don't remember dreaming at all during that time. And it's because alcohol is making you have less REM sleep. And after that, after the first night, since your brain is so deprived of REM sleep, the next time you go to sleep with no alcohol in your system, your brain will actually have a REM rebound. So you'll have really vivid dreams when you go to sleep a second time. So it's just a fun fact. So the next time you drink responsibly, of course, you might pay attention and notice that effect. Awesome. Thank you guys so much for participating in my little game. And before we leave today, I just wanted to share with you guys some of the tips I've gathered up for sleeping better. The first one is that you should plan and give some time to wind down before you go to sleep. So put yourself in a room with very low light, and that helps you. Oh, Jasmine's already feeling it. That's good. That helps you build up your melatonin because melatonin is sort of time sensitive, or sorry, light sensitive, and it only starts building up when it's dark. And I say that you should allocate some time before you fall asleep to wind down, and that's because you don't fall asleep right away. So, you know, when you count the time you need to be in bed, you should count like half an hour or an hour more than the time that you want to be asleep. Yeah, and you know, get in bed, turn off the lights for half an hour, and then you should be able to enter dreamland. And with the same logic, you should, if you were to wake up at night, try not to turn on any lights, because when you turn on the lights, your melatonin level will just go from high to really low, and it will be hard to fall asleep again. And I think you guys probably have some personal examples of that. And another thing about sleep is that what you do when you're awake actually will affect your sleep. And when you're doing work or writing papers, watching movies, you probably don't want to work in your bed, or if you can, don't work in your bedroom. And that's because when you associate different things with your bed that's not sleeping, you tend to move away from sleep when you're in bed and you're actually trying to sleep. And another thing is that you can arrange some nap time on your hard academic or work days. And just a quick 20-minute nap will do a lot for you. Awesome. So that's all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for coming. And
Thank you
I
for
hope,
having us.
yeah,
Yay.
I hope we can all improve on our sleep together.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.